Tampa General Hospital and USF Health, Morsani College of Medicine are bringing the power of academic medicine to Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. For nearly 2 decades, Tampa General has been ranked as one of the nation's best hospitals. And for over 50 years, Tampa General has been Florida's leading academic health system. Learn more about their growing network of physicians at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches. Welcome back to the Palm Beach North podcast. My name is Noel Martinez. I'm your host, and today we are sitting down with Stacey Leuliette, the editor and owner of the Scout Guide Palm Beach. She has such an impressive career, from working at Ralph Lauren to launching her own interior design business, and now she's dedicating to supporting local entrepreneurs through the Scout Guide, which we're going to hear about. Stacey, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Honored to be here today.
So let's start with the Scout Guide.
Yes.
Tell me about it and what is its mission?
Yes, the Scout Guide, first and foremost, we're a community. We are now, we started in 2010. By 2 women in Charlottesville, Susie Matheson and Christy Ford, 2 incredible ladies who wanted to, there were some big box retailers coming in. They really wanted to support their local businesses that they loved, and just share their word about them. And so we started actually as a blog. And we now then developed into a printed guide, and we're in over 96 cities across the country, maybe even more. We're close to 100. I know we're about to hit that benchmark. And we're a franchise, entirely women-owned, women-founded, and it's a wonderful community, like I said, of small businesses, independently owned businesses, helping the community as an ambassador and a voice for these independently owned businesses and entrepreneurs. So, well,
it is an absolute beautiful publication, right? It's not your typical. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, this is our Jupiter guide. This is our Palm Beach guide. I'm their largest publisher and have 4 markets, and we're moving some things around now. But it's been such a fun journey, and yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful publication.
So, what makes it different than other publications? Because there's a lot out there.
Wonderful question. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I end up spending the most time talking to people about, because people think of the Scout Guide and they see this guide or, one of our guides around town. They think that's what it is. This is our product. Yes, it is a beautiful product. It is a coffee table book. People collect them over the years. Every city's a different color. The editor gets to choose. But we are so much more than just our print guide. I like to think of it as one part of our business. Really what differentiates us from a lot of the other big glossy publications is that the Scout Guide acts as a marketing arm for your business throughout the entire year. So instead of just purchasing some advertising for, a series of the publications or a quarterly thing, we are with you throughout the year to help you not only with our print edition, but also with social media support and editorial coverage. There's national support. And that's the biggest difference, I think, about the Scout Guide, is not only our beautiful colored books with the gold foil and rounded corners, is that we have a local focus, but we are a national publication. So we have, the best of the area. We limit per category. So we're really featuring the best businesses that, the editor deems are, newsworthy for our readers and followers to, check out what to do, where to go, what not to miss around town.
So you talked earlier about it being 100% women-founded national franchise. What does it feel like to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's awesome. I will say, I've had the pleasure, starting in my days at Ralph Lauren, and actually even before that, in college, I interned at Sotheby's and worked with a wonderful team of women that had a great team of women at Ralph Lauren that I still, keep in touch with to this day. And I feel like all of those roles, and I spent time at Saks as marketing PR director, and then at Schumacher as sales director, and then I feel like it all kind of came together as like the role of editor was a perfect fit for me. And I'll share, in a little bit about how that came to be. But, working with 90 some, and our team at headquarters, is about 20, 30, I think. Working with all women at times is intense, as I'm sure you can imagine, but it is a wonderful group of women. The editors here, our team at headquarters, it's just the creativity. We come from all backgrounds of life. And the interesting thing about this as a franchise is that we all kind of work independently across the country. So, now we're in, almost 100 cities. And sometimes I know, and other editors feel like this, is we kind of feel like we're working on our islands, so we're not in the office with a bunch of women every day, but we have that support. We communicate daily. There's a big group text, with all the editors on it. And we say, hey, where'd you find that, spread, or who has done a shoot for this, or what, because we do all the photography in the guide. And I'll share a little bit about that, but we're so much different from other publications because of that, because my eyes are on it from beginning to end. And most of the time we're doing the shooting, we design the guide from start to finish. So, it's as a woman and as a creative, I feel like where I found my home. I've invested a lot of my time, energy, and finances into this brand, so I truly believe in what we're doing and our mission. Small business is a huge part of our economy. And, so I'm proud to be an advocate and ambassador for those businesses.
So you talked a little bit about how you are so selective on who gets to be in the book. You have the best of the best in the book.
Right.
Talk to me about how you select those people and how does someone get selected to be in there?
Sure. Well, there's a couple different ways. So I purchased the Palm Beach Scout Guide from Mimi Morrissey and her daughter Mary, who were a wonderful mother-daughter team. And they really felt like they had reached a point, and I'll never forget when she sat me down. We were sitting at San Ambrose at the Royal Point Siena Plaza, and she sat me down and she said, Stacey, I don't know what Instagram is, and I don't want to know what it is, and she is older. And so she said, I don't want to know what it is. And she's a wonderful woman, very professional, but just said, she had a very successful interior design business in her own right. So she felt like it was time to pass along the baton. And so I'll never forget that, because my focus with this, when I started the Palm Beach, or when I bought the Palm Beach Guide and then fractured my market to open up Jupiter and Palm Beach Gardens, then sold Wellington off recently, is that the print publication, that whole media was changing in many ways, so we have now way more eyes on what we're doing than we did before. And so with that being said, my selection process for businesses is, still pretty much the same, but there's a lot more noise around, so, and there's so many new businesses opening up, especially here in Palm Beach County. So we have people that have been with us for years, signed up with us since the beginning, and they are, very loyal, and renew every year. And there are new businesses that come in. Sometimes I reach out, sometimes they reach out to me. But since we do limit per category, it is, a conversation I have with my team. We talk about the business. We talk about, we talk to people who have shopped there or worked there, or, and we want to make sure that we're representing the best of the area. And that does, come, we do have wait lists, because people want to be in this guide. They know the power of it. They know the exposure they get, and they know, the events. I love to throw a great party. So that's a big part of what I do. And we've got our launch parties coming up for both these guys in about a month. And it's such a fun part of the job. So really, like I said, it's so much more than this print publication. It is the editorial, the national, the events, the, all of that, the activations that, gets people engaged in a different way, when maybe as a small business owner, you don't have that many hours in a day to take care of all of that, and I'm a small business owner too, so I know how that works.
So I know you throw one heck of a party. I've seen pictures of it. So let's talk about that launch party. What's it like? What can the community expect at your launch party? Yeah, so I'm chuckling because I just got on my way down here. I was talking with my operations director, who is like my right hand, Lucia Owen, who I'm grateful for every day. And we kind of work together as I've grown the guides over the years. I had to take on a different role because I was overseeing all 4 markets, and sales, business development. And then I brought people on my team to help me in areas where I knew that I wasn't going to have the time or the energy, or, they were better than what that's, one of the things I always do is I like to bring someone in who's better at that than I could be. We just talked about social media. If you're better than social media than me, I want to hire you. If you're better, at finances, numbers, I'm a creative. I want to go plan a party. I want to sell. I need to be with people. That's my strength, and I think the quality of a good leader is to
to recognize that, and maybe your strengths are other places, but I think, I talk to a lot of editors across the country and constantly remind them of that, because when you try and do everything, I think that's when you start, some things start to fall through the cracks. So, but planning events and planning parties is something I enjoy very much. It goes back to my days, I was a Kappa at SMU, and I was social chair. And so to plan all the parties was something I was used to. And I always loved to entertain when I was younger, have dinner parties and people over. But, the launch parties are our most important event of the year. It really is a celebration of the launch of our new edition, and a celebration of all the people and the places that are in the guide. And first and foremost, this guide is a community. That's what we are. We're a community of small business. We are networking. We are, providing a larger collective for these brands to maybe get exposure, or, be in touch with people that maybe they wouldn't have reached if they had done this on their own. And so the party is a big celebration for that. This year, we just did a walkthrough for our Jupiter party. We're about to do a walkthrough for our Palm Beach party, and they're two very different parties, but they're so much fun. And I'm a big theme girl. I love, the colors, and it's from my time at Ralph Lauren, where I feel like I was schooled, in presentation and merchandising and consistency and branding, telling that story. So as soon as someone walks in that event, whether it's a launch for the Scout Guide, or it's a big charity event that, I'm cheering, that, you want to walk into an experience, and like, much like we talked about with the guys, I want people to feel like I'm on vacation when I'm reading this. I have to get down there to Palm Beach, because it looks so much fun. And so that's what I always want to do, is I want people to enjoy themselves and celebrate this new edition. My team has worked tirelessly over the past year to get these together, and it's truly a labor of love. I think people, because of the publication industry, when magazines can be printed very quickly, they don't realize the labor that goes into putting one of these guides together, from the sales to the photography to the creative meetings to the production to the design and everything in between. And so when we launch this guide, it is a huge celebration for my team, and we can't wait to get it out. I've been looking at these guides for a year, and these are the editions from last year, but the ones that are the printer, I've had on my screen, in my mind, laid out on my table, for months now. And so it's a wonderful feeling to share it with everybody. And yeah, it is, I know when I launch a new, it's like, I love what I do, and that is a good feeling.
So it takes you a year to put this thing together.
It takes us a year.
Do you ever look at it like 3 months later or a month later, like, oh my God, I wish I would have done that a little bit different?
All the time. I think one of the things I think maybe that has helped me in my work, in my career too, is that I am meticulously critical of myself at times, maybe sometimes too, so you're always our one worst critic. And I expect things, I expect things from myself. I expect things from our team. I expect, and in a way that is, a celebratory and a wonderful thing, but I'm constantly saying, I could have done that better. Oh, that color's not right. You agonize over these cover colors, and you get like a whole Pantone deck of hundreds, maybe thousands of colors, and you're trying to figure out too. And, so the presentation of the guide is very important to me. The colors, I want people to look at it, to pick it up, and be excited to read it. And so that's a lot of what goes into, all of that, but it takes a long time. And so when we have that party, it is a wonderful, wonderful night and celebration. And then the real work begins for me and my team. That is really when we start sharing and celebrating these businesses, whether it's editorial things or events or, social media, things like that. So as we're sharing about the members that are in the current guide, I start to produce the next one. So, when I first bought Palm Beach, I knew that we could fracture that market. There was just so much there. And that's what we ended up doing. And so now we have 2 parties and now 3, because I sold Wellington to a wonderful couple. And they're launching in January as well. So we have 3 Scout Guides in the county, which is unheard of. We've got a lot more in Texas and in Florida than in any other state in the country. And going strong. I'd like to get a Fort Lauderdale guide. I'd like someone to buy my Boca guide. Would need a Miami guide, but all wonderful communities that need their own voice.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. I feel it.
Speaking of growth, right? Yeah. So let's talk about that. 96 guides. You're close to 100 across the whole entire United States. Yeah. That's crazy growth. And this has happened pretty quickly.
It really is. Yeah. And so I have a business degree. I am passionate about, corporate culture, business culture, philosophy, how that all works. And we right now at the Scout Guide have had exceptional growth in the past few years. And, I feel like we need to pause a second because we've been operating like we were a small business for a long time. Now we're a big business. And I think, to Susie and Christy's credit, this brand, this beautiful guide, this community, had grown bigger than they had ever imagined. And so they, have been challenged with, building the right team, making sure, and also the publishing industry has changed in incredible ways. I really see the Scout Guide as a larger media company. We are present in a lot of different ways. And the beauty of the franchise is that, the editors are allowed to kind of, within some reason, share and celebrate their guides and their members as best they see fit for their community. Mm-hmm. Well, here in Palm Beach, I can't do what I do for my Nantucket guide, and I can't do in Nantucket what I do for the Hamptons, and I can't do in the Hamptons what I do for Jupiter. So every guide has its own voice, and that's extremely important to me, and I think that, my hope and, my wish for the future of our brand, is that we are a bigger media company, national, a much more national recognition. I mean, these guides are celebrating, in Florida alone, we have, I think, over 3 million small businesses. It's over 99% of our community, as mm-hmm. This is your business too. And, and it's an incredible amount of hires and jobs and really the backbone of our community. So I feel like our message, especially after COVID and leading up and then after the explosion down here, our message is louder than ever, to support these people, their passion, their drive, their dedication, because being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. As many of us know, there are lots of joys and challenges and wonderful moments and sacrifices and there are, early mornings and long days and late nights, but it's all worth it. If you're, and if you love what you do and it's yours, then it's a different experience, and that I caught that bug very early, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about, how I got here in a second, but I love what I do. I'm passionate about these businesses and really sharing, that I feel like I use this guide as a platform to be loud about things I care about, whether it's the businesses, the charity work, the, many other things. Right now, it's the, really keeping the history and heritage, educating all these new people coming down that, this is what our community is. We are not New York City, we're not Miami, and we shouldn't be. And, there's a lot of controversy, I think, between the old and the new here. And I'd like to kind of even that out a little bit because there are some wonderful things happening in our county. And it's not all, and I mean, everyone complains about the traffic and all that stuff, which is, yes, that we need to figure some of that stuff out. But it is a wonderful thing. And it's exciting, to talk to these business owners and how their story and how they got here and all that stuff. So
you talked about some wonderful moments, right? Because I'm sure there's been a ton. Can you share some success stories or one success story where the Scout Guide really made a difference in a business? Yeah,
I think, there are so many. I don't want to single anyone out because there are a couple that I remember. My favorite thing is when someone comes back to us, when there's a new editor sometimes. And when I took over from Mimi, which was now 6 years ago, I knew I had big shoes to fill. There was some hesitation about a new editor and what does this look like? And what is your role going to be? And I was really nervous. I changed the cover colors. They were the same color for 7 years. I changed the color cover. I went heavy on digital. I was more loud about it, but I felt like that's what we needed, and I think for our businesses, when someone who had left maybe comes back and says, I really missed, what the Scout Guide did for me, or, hey, I got in the first week 3 calls that paid for my ad, or, things like that, where it's just those little moments where you say, hey, so-and-so found me from the Scout Guide. And I'll never, and I've watched some of the businesses that opened when I first bought the guide and have been with me ever since. And to see them grow, and how they've expanded, Pure Skin Palm Beach, Hive has been a longtime partner for us. Sarah McCann is a dear friend and has been a wonderful mentor to me. And, just to have, that community, those other women in my life too, that are, cheering you on, celebrating you. Cause that's not always the case with women, as we know. Oh yeah. And I am always, with all this, movement happening down here, I always believe there's enough sunshine on the island for everybody, you know, and so you just have to find your spot and just, you know, stay true to who you are and grounded in that and just go, you know, so.
So let's switch it up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your journey.
Okay.
Because you've got a very interesting journey, right? I mentioned earlier, you worked at Ralph Lauren, you opened up your own boutique, and then you eventually got into the design business, right? How did all those experiences kind of affect and influence you to where you are today? Yeah,
I've had a lot of different lives. Yeah, and I honestly never thought I'd be an editor. I don't have a publishing background. As you mentioned, you know, I come from a fashion background and interior design. And when I started working at Ralph Lauren out of school on the floor in the Highland Park Village store, which was a beautiful store, about 10 minutes from Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And I came out with this business degree. And my parents, I think, wanted me to do something a little bit different rather than go into retail sales with this business degree. But I said, just trust me. And I love the brand. I wrote a big, you know, thesis on Ralph Lauren. I knew that's what I knew that's where I wanted to work. And it all just kind of worked out. And I started working on the floor, and then about 6 months later, corporate came and pulled me in for a position that was called a merchandise coordinator, which I loved because I'm dating myself now, but it was Rachel Green's job on Friends. Do you remember? Have you ever seen Friends or familiar with this? It was Rachel Green's job.
Yes.
Her office was much nicer than mine, but I worked when I was based in Dallas, but I was traveling 3-4 days a week, setting up stores, merchandising, training the teams. And then about 2-3 times a year, I would go to New York for Fashion Week, design meetings, everything. And I was there for Ralph's 40th anniversary. And that really, I think it was a moment where I said, okay, this is like, I felt, you know, I was still young. I just graduated college a few years ago. And I've constantly taken that aesthetic with me, you know, the branding, the consistency, the merchandising, that storytelling. And that's kind of has come with me everywhere. And then I moved home to Michigan and opened up a store because I felt like we needed something like it in town and wanted a project. And just, I left Ralph because I felt like I didn't want that New York life. You know, the group I worked with was wonderful, but our boss had kids, and I didn't know for 2 years. You know, she was at the office at 8 a.m. and stayed till like 8 or 9, you know, and I just said, that's not the life I want. You know, and to get out of that fashion rat race is a difficult thing to do when you're sucked into it. But I think at the time in my life, I knew it was time for me to come home, you know. And I'm a Midwestern girl. Like, don't let this Palm Beach tan fool you. You know, I'm a Midwesterner at heart, but Florida's been home for a very long time. And Palm Beach has always been a second home for my family, you know, since I was little. And I moved down here full time 12 years ago. And so, but back to my store, I felt like we needed something in town. And so I opened that, and then I started my design work out of there. And that's what took me to Palm Beach full time. So I was working on a project down here and just started staying for longer and longer and longer. And so then that's how I ended up here 12 years ago. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, you know. And since then I've been at Saks as marketing PR director and Schumacher. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I'm happiest at the helm of my own ship. So this is a perfect fit for me. And the Scout Guide kind of fell in my lap in an interesting way. I was sending out resumes as soon as I moved back here. I had spent a little time in DC and New York and probably sent, 20 resumes out that day. And someone responded from the Scout Guide. I said, hey, I love the publication. I know, one of the founders. I'm close with the Matheson family, and said, if you're looking for any help, here's my resume. And I met Mimi for lunch, and 10 minutes in, she asked me if I wanted to be editor. And I said, I would love to do that. How does that work? How does that work?
Okay, what do I got to do?
And she shared with me that she had been looking for an editor for about a year because she felt like the guide was getting too big for her to manage this and then her interior design business. So bought the guide from her, and I guess the rest is history. Now I own, I just closed one market, but I've been their largest publisher. I had 4 markets at one point, trying to get back down to just one for some wonderful shifts in my life. And so just want to focus on all the activity happening in here in Palm Beach. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, and we're not done yet. So yeah, we're just getting started.
So you talked about it earlier. There's a lot of highs and lows in entrepreneurship. entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over the years, running a retail store is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like you never really realize until you run that store, the dedication it takes. I know I slept in the store some nights on the floor. We're unpacking boxes. We're doing inventory. You're there, especially during the holiday season. So God bless all of you who are working retail right now in this busy season, because it is demanding. It is very demanding, but I learned a lot. And, I realized that, I loved creating things. I've always been a creative. My father is an engineer, and, it was, and not, doesn't really do that anymore. Ended up doing other things in the automotive industry and venture capital. But the amount of work that I did there, I never really realized in that store how much, how it would take me through the rest of my career, and I've always loved being an entrepreneur, but there are days and it can all happen in a day. I can have a wonderful moment in my Palm Beach market and something in Hamptons or Nantucket happen. And so you're balancing. It's a constant balancing act. And when you realize something that, you need to make a decision, you need to, those pressure moments, I think, that, if I do this, then this, if this, then that, and so you're trying to, and you hope that you make the right decision. But, I would say it's a time sacrifice. It takes a lot of time for me to run a business. And as any business owner knows, things come up and that I think has been the biggest shift in my life in the past, year and a half, as I realized how much time this was taking, how much of myself I was giving. And I needed to focus a little bit on myself, and I think, and everyone goes through that in different points of their business too. But it is those moments where you have big decisions to make and you say, I gotta wait. What are the pros? What are the cons? And you just go. You gotta be confident in that decision, because not making a decision is making a decision. My father told me. My father told me once, not making a decision is making a decision. So you either need to go left or you need to go right. But make a decision.
So for today's Medical Minute, I'm here with Dr. Sonia Olson, a liver specialist for the TGH Digestive Health Center. We're going to talk about fatty liver disease. That sounds really bad, Doc. So tell me more about it. What is it?
Fatty liver disease is not good. And unfortunately, there is an epidemic of fatty liver disease in this country. This is a disease where the liver inappropriately stores fat. Over time, that fat causes inflammation and even scar tissue and could cause cirrhosis.
How do you know you have it, Doc?
Fatty liver disease most of the time does not cause symptoms until it's very advanced.
Should I go out and get a test right now?
Well, that's an excellent question. I don't think so, but
Okay.
You can't tell if someone has fatty liver disease by looking at them. We do know that some patients are at higher risk. So any patient with type 2 diabetes should be screened. And any patient with metabolic syndrome, so 2 or more risk factors, such as obesity, hypertension, high cholesterol, or sleep apnea, these patients should also get screened.
How do you treat fatty liver disease?
Well, diet and exercise go a long way in both preventing and treating fatty liver disease, but now there is a medication available for certain patients with fatty liver disease, making the conversation with your doctor even more important.
Awesome, Doc. Well, that's some great information. Thank you so much. And that was your Medical Minute here with Dr. Olson. Thanks so much for coming out. At what point, because we all have this, right? At what point did you realize, man, I am absolutely doing the right thing? This is exactly what I was cut to do.
Yeah. I think, when I bought Palm Beach, a couple of years later, we hit our 10-year anniversary for this guide. We're one of the oldest guides in the company. And I felt like with all the growth here, okay, let's start to run. Let's open up Jupiter and Palm Beach Gardens. They need their own voice. There's a lot going on up there. They're not Palm Beach. They can be friends and sisters, but they need their own voice. So I did that. Then the Hamptons market came for sale, and I bought that. I had already owned Nantucket. Nantucket is actually my first guide and is like my baby. But I felt like when I was running those 4 markets and I was, looking at doing bigger things with the Scout Guide, and I really felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like I felt like I found my calling. I feel like everything I've done up until this point, whether it be Ralph Lauren or marketing PR director at Saks or sales director at Schumacher, all these wonderful roles, but nothing made me as happy or gave me as much creativity as running these guides, because I do love to throw a great party. I am, it's easy for me to, in the social calendars down here, you have to do that in Palm Beach. You have to be active. You have to be out. It's a part of our culture down here. We're the most philanthropic county in the country, I think, arguably, if not the first, the second. And that part of my business is a big part of what has grown the guides, is that exposure with those people. And so I felt in those nonprofits and just getting the guide out. So I really do feel that this is what I was meant to do. I love doing it. It doesn't mean I don't have difficult days. It doesn't mean I don't have frustrations. It doesn't mean that I think I'm doing everything right. I still got a lot to learn, but I love what I'm doing. And, that's not a lot of people can get out of bed and say that every day. So,
yeah. 100%. Yeah. So you've talked a little bit about supporting the community, how important it is to you. Supporting small businesses is super important to you as well. Where did all that come from?
That came from my parents. My parents instilled in me in a very young age that, to give back to the community that has given so much to you. And when we were growing up, I grew up in a suburb outside of Detroit called Bloomfield Hills. And my dad was very active in the automotive industry, and then, in the investment world later. And then we were also down here in Palm Beach and Naples for a little bit too. And they were always very active and, attending events, cheering gala, being, giving back and they still do to this day. My father chairs the YMCA of the Palm Beaches, that board, who has a very interesting story. And, they're doing great things too. And it's from my parents, because they made it very clear to me that it's, you have to give back to this community, that no matter where you are, whether it's Detroit, and I still do things there. I was very active when I was younger, and Detroit Institute of Arts and other things. And now my focus here, because I've tried to take some things off my plate, because I felt like for a few years I was spread too thin, as that can happen. And so to focus on things that are very important to me, my family, and right now, I did a lot of work with the Hanley Foundation. I've been sober. It'll be 12 years in January. So that's a very important mission to me. Thank you. Yeah. And so very active in that community. And the Palm Beach Historical Society, who's doing great things, around the county too. And like I said, preserve and protect and educate everyone on the history and heritage of our great county. So those are where I'm focusing my efforts, as well as Hope for Depression Research Foundation, which is a wonderful organization founded by Audrey Gruss that helps find cures for depression, treatments, all of that, and educating people about that. So that's really where I'm focusing my efforts right now.
Let's get into a little bit about your role at the Scout Guide. I can't imagine what your day-to-day is like. So what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, the good news is for me is that every day is different, actually. It kind of depends on where I am in the life cycle of my guide. For the past 4 years running 4 markets, it was juggling what's happening in Palm Beach and Jupiter with what's happening in Nantucket and the Hamptons, based on where my guides were at. And I did that in a way. I launched Palm Beach guides at the same time, and then my Northern guides at the same time. So I was kind of like creating one big guide. I would do all my sales in one 6 months. And then we jump into what we call creative meetings and photography. And in Jupiter, we work with a wonderful Eve Greendale, is our lead photographer up there. And in Palm Beach, Nick Mealy, who's a dear friend and just, is such a treasure. So we've had so much fun, kind of putting those guides together. So it just kind of depends, from photography, then we move into design, and then production and send the guides off. But depending on where I'm at in my cycle, if it's a sales cycle, most of my days are, especially during our high season down here, are either client visits, there are, business events, luncheons, evening events, and a few years back, and you know how easy it is, you know, you can go to 4 or 5 things a night and still not hit everything and do that 6 nights a week. So I've kind of taken a step back from that for you know, just my sanity and mental health. But there's never a shortage of things, you know, to do here. And so I always like to, you know, do touch points with our clients during the day. You know, I think sales is my favorite part of the guide, sales and designing the guide together. You know, our guides are designed by one person at headquarters. We do all the design in-house. We do all the photography, for the most part. So it really is a special, like that you asked how we were different from other publications. Like that's how it's different. Like I create this from beginning to end, you know, and there are a lot of different people on our team. You know, it's not just one person. I'm not a one-woman show. There are so many people that like this guide would not be possible without. But it is a reflection of my vision. And that's what I've tried hard to do is to build a team around me that, you know, can help me execute my vision. And so I just let them run, you know, and say, this is what, you know, just you go. But it is, you know, it's always every day is different. Every day is different. Yeah.
So the Scout Guide's all about really showcasing the people behind the business, right? How do you help these people share their story?
Yeah. And many different ways. And, you know, you ask, how do you start your day? I will say that pretty much every day I need to wake up and move my body. So whether it's yoga or rollerblading or soul cycle, I need to wake up and move my body, get my head straight for the day. That kind of helps me. This morning, I was talking to one of our clients, Holly Miller, who is Weston, who is now owns the Yoga Society. And, you know, we were talking about how can we share your story digitally, you know, for things. That's one of the things she's been kind of working on is building her digital presence. And so we talk about that. But there are a lot of different ways that we can help, you know, businesses. Some businesses have really strong content already and they don't need our help. Other businesses really don't have a big presence online or on Instagram. And as you know, when I look up a business, I will say this, when I look up a business to advertise with us, I do look up their Instagram and their website first. That's what I want to know. How are you communicating with this generation? You know, and I think there's a lot of debate, and I know, you know, some of the editors we're very married to our print publication, which is a beautiful thing that we should never leave. It is our product, but there's so much more that we can do in this new space, like what we're doing right now.
The reach.
The reach that you can, I mean, you look at that last election and it is a true, you know, when you're getting millions and millions of views and now, you know, all other forms of media. And I said, and why would you invest your money on something that you're not sure, or you know, that is going to be like a very quick thing? Investing, and when people invest with me to advertise, it is, like I said, a year-long contract. And it's like, you get me as an advocate and ambassador of your brand, you know, as a cheerleader. And that's one of the things I love the most is that I'm a very strong Leo. And if I love something, I'll tell everybody. And if I don't, you know, so when these businesses that I love, I will tell everyone about it. I'm a very passionate person. And so that's, you know, I think that's what has made the guide so successful down here is really being loud about it. You know, I know when people see me, I know they see the Scout Guide. It is my brand. And I am very careful and mindful about that around town, is that I know people see my work. And I think that in a town where, you know, people can get caught up in all the, you know, just the lifestyle down here, I think it's an important reminder to, you know, young women and men, you know, in business who are looking to start out here, is a reminder, you know, your character is judged by what you do when no one's looking. It's something my father always told me too, you know, so to keep your head on straight about that. And so I've always remembered that.
So you've gotten to work with small businesses in Nantucket, in Texas, I mean, all over Florida. Yeah. What makes us down here unique?
Oh, well, right now we're exploding. I mean, Palm Beach County in Florida, the state of Florida, has always been a second home for me. And, you know, our beloved little beach towns are now experiencing, you know, a change in major ways that a lot of our markets across the country are not experiencing and don't understand what it's like, because it is, as you well know, just night and day to a few years ago, you know. And I remember when some of the, and I won't name names, but I remember when some of the biggest schools down here would call me and say, do you know anyone who wants to enroll? Because we need to fill our classes. And now there's wait lists everywhere, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it's a different dynamic. South Florida is such a special place because most people come down here for vacation, you know, and that's really, you know, I think people see Palm Beach County for the most part, especially Palm Beach, as a playground, which in many ways still is and can be, and historically has been. But now, more than ever, there's opportunity here. There are jobs here. There is consistency. When before, I think, you know, growing up, people would come down here for a little bit, come down for holidays, and it wasn't necessarily a year-round thing. But now there's so much more year-round, and businesses and communities and all of that. And it really is developing into such a beautiful place, you know, all over the county. And what I love is that our North County is so much different than our Wellington, you know, area, and Palm Beach is different, you know, from Boca and Delray. You know, we have these little pockets around this county, but it's a very special county. You know, I think you probably know this too. We're like third county biggest on the east of the Mississippi or something.
Yes, yeah,
it's
from Landmass,
massive.
yeah. Yep.
It is massive, and so and one of the largest school districts in the country. And there's a lot of stuff happening down here. So, you know, I think, and as we talked about, you know, my hope and down here is to really share and celebrate about this community, not only the new things that are happening, but the history and heritage of why this place is so special. You know, I mean, I have so many fond memories here. This is home for me, and we want to protect those things and make sure everything's not bulldozed, you know, and brand new, you know, so.
Well, I know I'm a little biased, right? I'm the chamber guy, but we live in such an amazing place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we've got everything.
Yeah.
We've got the best of everything.
Yeah.
We really do.
And why would you live anywhere else? It's not great, you know, and I love it people ask me all the time, you know, because they say, oh, you look like you're having so much fun down there and it's wonderful. I said, it is. Like, your quality of life down here, there's something about waking up to the sunshine and the palm trees. And I spent 18 years of my life in Michigan. You would never know, you know, because now if it gets below 70, I like pull my fur out. But there's something so wonderful about this life down here. And I am a very, you know, eternal optimist, very happy person. I feel like, you know, that my faith keeps me grounded. I've got, you know, just I always want to see the good in things and the bright side of things. And this place is a wonderful place, you know, to grow up and raise a family and all those wonderful things. So start a business. Yeah.
So you get to work with a lot of small business owners.
Yep.
And I think I know where you're going to go with this, but what are some of the biggest opportunities that you see with some of our small businesses?
You mean in terms of just what they can do down here?
Yeah. What can they do better to market themselves, or what can they do better to help their businesses?
Yeah. I think one of and this isn't necessarily just, you know, for Palm Beach County, but in some older communities, you know, there's a mentality that everyone knows we're here. Everyone knows. So we don't have to advertise. And then they forget that there's also new people coming in town, new businesses coming in town that are advertising. And, you know, maybe they're going to go around the corner instead of all the way down to you, or, you know, all of that stuff is like, I think to not advertise is not a wise decision for a number of reasons. I mean, obviously I'm biased because this is my business, but it is to be relevant in people's minds. You think, I'm sure there's some statistic on it, but you know, the joys and the challenges of social media that drain that every day, you know, and there's you know, with the kids and what does that look like development wise, but think of all the images that we are inundated with on a daily basis, whether it be from our phones or wherever. And it's important for those businesses to stay relevant. And I think, like I said, like when I look up a business, I look, how are you representing yourself? You know, that's a big part of what the Scout Guide looks for in a business is, you know, how are you running your business? Are you really the best of the, can I recommend, you know, my family, my friends to go shop with you, to go, you know, service providers, all of that stuff. And so it's really just getting out there, being active. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen really help some of our businesses is the engagement with their community on a level, whether it's charity work or whether it's partnering with a nonprofit to open their doors, or, the collaborations, the partnerships, the pop-up culture and activations became huge after COVID. That was a whole new area of retail that really people, we're trying to figure out, and, just like let new people get in front of my, product, and shows and everything. And I think, just constantly being your best cheerleader, it's a constant thing, and there's no easy answer, but being a part of a bigger collective is a short answer to your question. Yeah. And so that's why the Scout Guide is such a wonderful thing for small business.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to you a little bit, right?
Okay.
So I'm sure you're under a lot of pressure at all times, right? You're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner.
Yeah.
I read in your bio that you like to do yoga, you sail. So I got to hear about that, right? You like to do anything outdoors. So how do you unwind? Is that how you unwind?
Yes, it is. It's very important to me. Like I said, if usually when I work out, first thing is I'm either headed to yoga class, going to SoulCycle, or putting on my rollerblades. No matter if I'm here, if I'm on Nantucket, if I'm in the Hamptons, or wherever my work will take me, or home in Michigan. But it's important for me to move my body and kind of, just set myself for the day. And that has been something, I've been practicing yoga now for over 20 years, and got my certification. But do not teach. But that physical activity, I was field hockey and soccer and school. I've always been, like that release for me it's hard for me to sit still and meditate. So I like a moving meditation. And so that's what I do. And yes, I grew up sailing. My family used to travel to the Virgin Islands every year for like 10 years. We would spend like a month there and we would sail around. It's now a very different town, like very different group of islands because they've like all commercialized now, but when we went there, it was, a couple of boats in the harbor and, they throw some burgers on the restaurant at the restaurant there. And that was your fancy dinner and your bathing suits and everything. And it was just a wonderful way to grow up. And some of my fondest memories are with my family on the water. My dad was a sailor, and so he brought the whole family, and we just have, I have a younger sister that used to come with us all the time, and it was a wonderful time. So I love being on the water. It's very calming to me. Anyone who knows me knows I am a huge SoulCycle rider. I love to ride. They just opened at City Place in West Palm Beach. They're here till March. If anyone wants to come ride,
sell it.
It is a party on a bike, and I love it. I sing and I whip my tail. I love it. It makes my heart so happy. And it's enjoyable, like I enjoy working out. I guess like I enjoy that part. And I know not everything. I'm not a runner or whatever, but
you like to party on a bike.
But I like to party on a bike and I like to rollerblade, and sometimes when I'm rollerblading, and whether I'm on like Lake Trail or like up and down Flagler, and sometimes I get like a thumbs up, like like it's so cool. And sometimes I get like, I didn't know people still did that, so it's just kind of, but no, I love it. I love it. It makes my heart happy. So that's what I do. And then, I really have taken some time in the past year, 6 months to reassess, any entrepreneur will tell you that, there, like they said, there are sacrifices. It's a time thing. And there are times where you have to be more intense with your business. And that means that your family and your friends get less of your attention, And so I was so focused on building and creating my business for the past 5 years. And it was October 2021. I met a man that changed my life and fell in love. And so now just kind of reassessing, where all that time goes, and to make sure that I can run my business and, do other things too. So
you've had a super interesting life.
Yeah.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned along the way?
Most important lesson. I'm going to tap into, there's so many wonderful lessons I've learned. But we talked a little bit, kind of off air. I stopped drinking. It'll be 12 years in January. That's a big part of my journey and something I'm very vocal about because I feel like sharing my story helps others, and, that going through that whole process and, deciding not to drink and all the stuff that comes after that, just acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. That's part of their, some of the literature in meetings and stuff, but acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. So, and recently my boyfriend has been encouraging me to not sweat the small stuff, not sweat the small stuff, just acceptance. And then you can make a decision. Once you've accepted something, whether it's a personal issue, a business issue, with like, okay, acceptance, what are the facts? Okay, let's make a decision. I think for women in business sometimes, and we talked about working with 96 other women can be, it's a wonderful experience, and at times it's intense because of one of our greatest assets, I believe, our emotions. But it is difficult, for some to understand, and also for all of us to communicate at times. But I think, it's a wonderful thing. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love being an entrepreneur. And I love, I love doing what I do. And I've had so many gifts and wonderful mentors along the way, that have helped guide me here. So grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time here, but I do want to squeeze in one more question.
Yeah.
Legacy is so important to all of us,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So let's say 40, 50, 60, 70 years down the road, when we're all gone.
Yeah.
What do you want people to say about Stacey?
Yeah. Wow.
That's deep. I know
that
it's
is
deep.
Yeah, that's deep. So many wonderful things. No, I have spent most of my life, as most women do, trying to figure out, what's next, where's the right fit, where do I fit, who do I, all those things. And I would really like to be remembered. I think the Scout Guide is a part of my legacy. Hopefully for, a future family, and I would love to be remembered, as someone who brought light and sunshine to this community and the small business community, and someone who is remembered for, her classic, timeless, style and elegance. And also, I think because of my faith, because I, have been sober for so long, I'm different from a lot of people in many ways. And, sometimes the right thing to do isn't always a popular thing to do. And I think that I know that I am grateful for that journey, whether it be through my parents who have taught me that, or through other, mentors along the way. But just to be mindful of all of that, and just, yeah. Yes, I think that's it.
Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Congratulations on your success. Like, you deserve every ounce of it.
Thank you. It's been a fun ride, and we're just getting started. Yeah.
You're killing it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
So where can people get more information on the Scout Guide? If anybody wants to learn more.
Great question. So thescoutguide.com is where you can find all of our cities. And there we have a beautiful website that lists all of the cities, and you can click on our Florida cities there. You can follow us on Instagram at TSG Palm Beach and TSG Jupiter PBG. And then you can follow me at S Leuliette. And I don't know if you are going to put that on the screen.
We'll figure it out. Yeah,
we'll figure it out. Yeah, because it's not easy to spell. But
yeah, we'll help you get it out there, because it's definitely not easy to spell.
Yeah.
It's not so hard to pronounce. I thought it was going to be harder to pronounce. But
there is where you can find, all of our adventures and information. And, you can find information on advertising there if you're a business interested in being a part of our next edition. So.
Well, Stacey, thanks again. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being such a great partner to the Palm Beach North Chamber.
Absolutely. We're so thrilled to have you with us. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing year. And for everyone that has tuned in, thank you so much. Again, share, like, follow, tell all your friends about all the amazing things going on in Palm Beach North. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.